I'm seriously shocked. I should have asked you what you thought before we started this thing. When you were talking about it, I was like, wait, he means it's going to go fast because he didn't like it? I was totally not. You did use M. Night Shyamalan my ass, dude.
That twist ending.
You just night twisted me, dude.
Night twisted you?
Night twist? That sounds kind of erotic. I like it. I'm going with it.
Sounds kind of rapey. You're getting rapey, Joe.
Stop night twisting me. Anyway.
Are open, then the sound you're hearing is Stream Team Podcast Episode 8. I'm your host, Jamel Singleton, and joining me as always is the incomparable Joe Hope. Hey Joe, how you doing?
I'm incomparable, apparently. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. You're looking good. You're looking good, my friend.
If this is your first Stream Team Podcast, here is how we roll. We start each show with a recap of what we've been reading, watching, playing. Then we segue into a discussion of our favorite recent news items. Finally, we'll dive into the main event, a streaming movie review. This week's main event is The Dictator, starring Sacha Baron Cohen. Cohen. See how I said Cohen?
Oh, that's not good. He's got a girl's name, Sasha, and then you call him Colin. That's just even more emasculating.
Sacha Baron Cohen.
Cohen.
Cohen, eh?
Dude, don't.
He's one of them. He's one of them there Cohen boys, eh?
Don't Mitch H it. All right. I'm just saying. Don't. What you been up to? Hit me up with the press rewind.
So you know what I've been doing mostly is watching Arrested Development.
Yes. And this is why you and I are friends.
Now the story of a wealthy family who lost everything, and the one son who had no choice but to keep them all together. It's Arrested Development.
So sort of to my great shame, I had never watched season 3 of Arrested Development previously. So with the new season coming up, I kind of jumped into Arrested Development, got all the way through season 3, and then eventually got on to this new season that just popped up on Netflix. So
I will save what I'm going to say to you until we get to the Hot This Week section.
I've been watching a whole lot of Justice League. Justice League popped up on Netflix about a month ago, and so I kind of just been going back through it, watching it, catching episodes that I missed previously, and, you know, watching episodes that I'd seen before again, kind of just getting back up on that show.
Hang on, for the uninitiated like myself, this is the cartoon Justice League?
This is the cartoon Justice League. It was produced in, I'd say, like the early to mid-2000s.
It is not like Justice League Unlimited or any of those crazy things they have these days. This is like the first one?
This is the first one. And, you know, one of the things I found out as I was kind of trucking through the seasons is while Justice League Unlimited was officially a different show, or by all appearances seemed to be a different show, there doesn't seem to be a separate listing for it anywhere. Like if you look on IMDb or you start looking at different seasons of the show, they separated the DVDs, but it seems like it's considered just a continuation of Justice League. Which
That's interesting.
Kind of makes sense because it's still Justice League. They just started adding more members into the show and going with a little bit more wider range of storylines. But anyway, so I finished season 1 of Justice League, which is kind of hard to get through. I remember that show just being fantastic from top to bottom, and I think it's because what I was remembering was the further seasons of it. I'm now in season 2, and I watched a few episodes of that. 2 things about Justice League. First off, every freaking episode is a 2-parter, which for whatever reason is kind of annoying.
That sounds really friggin' annoying, actually.
Yeah, it's every single episode's a 2-parter. And in season 1, it seems like they were still trying to figure out exactly what they were going to do with all the characters. So they have all these characters that are all in their own ways very powerful. And I think they hadn't decided on how that dynamic was going to work and how they were going to work together. So what they did instead was gimp all of the characters. So through the first season, I mean, you're watching Batman, which is, Batman from Batman the Animated Series, who was a complete badass. And you're watching him just get stumped in all of these weird ways that don't make any sense.
Like The Dark Knight Rises? Yes. Just kidding. Sorry. We will not open up that can of worms.
You're watching Superman fight in a way that feels like he's holding back. You're watching Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's the only one that it feels like there's some explanation for it, because in Justice League, her character is just now becoming Wonder Woman. She's just now leaving the island, so she's a rookie for all intents and purposes.
It would make sense if it was like Batman Year 1 and Superman's first year being Superman, but none of the rest are like that. It's just her.
Right. And I think Jon Stewart was probably, in the first season, he's probably the most powerful character. I think he continues to be such, too. I think at times the things that they do with that character, and it may just be favoritism from the writers, but he was a very strong character, and his ability to get out of situations he was caught in by himself was really interesting and pretty well done. It was always exciting to see him get caught, in a corner, because he was always able to get himself out, versus some of the other characters always getting beat up, or, Hawkgirl, for instance, always goes in head first and is constantly getting slapped on the head for doing it. And Martian Manhunter is just, I've been watching it with my daughter, and we had this joke like every single episode. How many times is Jean, the Martian Manhunter, just going to go, oh, and fall on the ground, knocked out? Because that's pretty much what happens to him in every single episode.
When
like
she gets older, I sense a drinking game coming when she gets older.
Well, who says it's not happening now?
Hey.
But seriously, it was kind of difficult and kind of frustrating at times, but the writing was still pretty good. And the characters are starting to kind of get defined by the end of the season. And in season 2, it's just so much better. I mean, they moved to widescreen, so the picture was better, and they ended up drawing everything in a more dynamic way that felt more like film. The storylines get written a lot better, and all of the characters are just way amped up. I mean, you're like, this is what Superman is supposed to be like. This is what Wonder Woman is supposed to be like. They're all really powerful, and everybody they're fighting is really powerful, and everything seems so much more dynamic and great. So I'm looking forward to continuing with the Justice League into the further seasons, and then eventually jumping into Justice League Unlimited.
Nice, man. Yeah, I know a lot of TV series that I really love these days were slow to get starting. They either the first season was just kind of uneven, or like The Office, the first season of The Office, when it first came out, like it was just a riff off of the British series, and it was kind of a poor riff off that. The British series was way better, and then the second season they started doing their own stuff, and all of a sudden I really enjoyed the American version of The Office better than the British version.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it just takes them a while to find their way, and for all the pieces to fit together. It was interesting watching that happen in an animated show, especially with the lineage of Batman the Animated Series and the Superman animated television series. Yeah. I think I was just immediately expecting more, and it was interesting to see that even in in this medium, they have some of the same troubles that a conventional live-action television show has, as far as figuring out who the characters are, where they're going, and
yeah, just because it's drawn doesn't make it all those problems go away.
Right. And so,
interesting.
And when it gets good, it gets very, very good. So, like I said,
nice.
It's a great show. If you haven't been watching it or it's been a long time, I suggest anybody pick it back up and check it out because it's pretty awesome.
So I actually, the first movie I'll get to is one that I didn't fully understand and or I guess I don't appreciate. It's called John Dies at the End.
Move now. Got my attention, Mr. Wong.
Oh, it gets better. A lot better.
Have you seen this movie?
I have not, but I've heard the exact same sentiment from many people.
You know, it reminds me of... how do I want to say this? It reminds me of a lot of other strange movies like Naked Lunch or kind of David Lynch feel to some of it. There was definitely a Sam Raimi feel to a lot of it with lots of guts and kind of black humor. You know, like where something gross is happening, but you're supposed to be laughing at it.
Right.
But there was just so much of it where I was not necessarily confused, but I just didn't think it made any sense. Like I get why it's happening on the screen or I understand why a character is doing something, but I just don't understand their motivation or maybe I just don't get the character or I don't really understand how this plot point comes into focus all of a sudden. There was a lot of it like that. It felt like a very independent movie, like an indie flick. And I guess looking at it now, they didn't have a huge budget. It was made by a few guys and, you know, it wasn't really studio produced, but Paul Giamatti was in it. Like the cast, I'd never really heard of except for Paul Giamatti. And he had said such good things about it online. I gave it a shot. But sadly, I wasn't that interested. Like if you're into weird, trippy movies, like I guess if you want to get high and watch this movie, it might be cool. But I feel like if I had gotten drunk or something and tried to watch this, I'd probably end up like curled up in the corner. Like there's some really gross stuff in this movie. Yeah. So I guess in my opinion, skip John Dies at the End. I don't understand why it's getting such geek love online.
Like I said, I've heard the same sentiment from a lot of different people. And I was kind of interested in this movie when I first saw the previews for it come out or the first previews for it start showing up online and the trailers and everything. It looked really interesting, but I have not heard a single person give it not even a mildly glowing review. Everybody's been very kind of either it wasn't good or it was just okay.
You know, the premise is interesting. That these two guys, see, and that's part of the problem. Like, I'm supposed to accept at the very start of the movie that these two guys are kind of called upon to deal with the supernatural without any kind of explanation as to why they're kind of called upon for this or what makes them special. And then they introduce this other element called soy sauce, which is like this drug that they take, but it's actually something else. You find out later. But this drug that enhances senses. It allows them to communicate telepathically. It allows them to know the future. And the reasoning they develop for this special ability is solid. Like it's good from a sci-fi perspective, but it's just all over the place, man. It just makes no sense. Like there's, again, motivations that kind of come out of nowhere and explanations you're supposed to just take at face value without any real kind of character development. The titular John in the title, from what I can tell, doesn't die at the end. So, but I guess I read online that I guess in the book, it's based on a book or a graphic novel that he dies in that. But in the movie, he doesn't. So the whole time I'm like, when the fuck is John going to die? Like, come on, bite the dust already, man. He doesn't even like die and come back. Like, anyway, it's weird.
Spoilers.
I don't know if it's spoilers to say the guy who, if the Titanic didn't sink, wouldn't you feel gypped?
Well, I mean, Yeah, I guess.
So people, if it's spoilers, I apologize. Spoilers.
You ruined the potential twist. It's like
Yeah.
John dies at the end. Haha, no, he doesn't.
Just so you yeah, but see, that's not even a good twist. That's a shitty twist. Like, so anyway, Titanic survives. Like, if the movie was called Titanic Survives and then the Titanic sank, I'd be like, what the hell? And that's how I feel about John dies at the end. What the hell?
Nice.
Moving on. I also
before we move on, I just wanted to point out that you said titular, and that's almost like booby.
I had that word in my head about a minute before I said it, and I kept thinking he's going to make fun of me for it. I thought you were going to call me like, I don't know, snobby for using titular. But at the same time, I was really kind of hoping you'd say something about boobies. Clap, clap. Anyway.
I never take the high road, sir, when there's such a beautiful low road to take.
So we talked about it with our good friend Patrick last week, what we'd be doing this week. And I also watched Halo 4, Forward Unto Dawn, which I guess was a web series and now is available as one complete picture on Netflix.
This is not a drill! Move!
You're under attack. What the hell are those things? Go!
Stay close to me. I'm your best chance for survival.
It's a whole new war. You okay? Go!
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
What did you think? I'll let you tell me. Well, tell me what you thought because you've played the games, you know the games. Then I'll tell you what I thought from an outsider's perspective who's never really played the games.
Okay. I thought for a web series, it was very good. For a web series, it's among the best I've ever seen. And that's sort of cheating because they had a fairly big budget, you know? But
because it's Halo, because it was
it's Halo, yeah. But I mean, it's still, they didn't go so far above what you'd expect from like a fan film or something that they didn't go so far ahead that you felt like, wow, you know, nobody could have done this without like $1 million or something like that, because they didn't have that much, but they had a pretty good chunk of money and Microsoft support all the way through. I think.
I forgot about that. I forgot about Microsoft helping.
Yeah, I mean, there's things like, you know, to a certain extent, I think there's things like the Warthog vehicle that they end up driving in the movie.
Like chase scene.
Microsoft built that, you know, and I don't think it came out of the movie's budget per se, because I think Microsoft was more than happy to have a real working Warthog around for whenever they do promotions for Halo. So
hell yeah, sure.
You know,
yeah.
so things like that, I think, like things like the weapons and things like that, I'm sure Microsoft and or Bungie, who created the Halo series, was happy to help provide some of that stuff. So
sure,
they did have some benefits, but at the same time, you know, things like the effects and things like that still felt like pretty low budget. Very, very well done, but pretty low budget still, and I like that. Watching it as a web series, I had one opinion of it. Seeing it as like one complete movie, I feel like some people may not get the true spirit of what they tried to do when they created that series. They may not, I mean, they may feel like this is a real serious attempt to make a movie, and look at it and grade it under those conditions, but I think that as a web series, it's incredible. I think it's very well done. It's really well written, and I think the cast, especially the main character, I forget the kid's name. He was actually in another show that I watched called Dance Academy.
I'm sorry, what?
Dance Academy.
I'm sorry. I thought you just said I'm a woman. And I have tiny breasts or something. That's what I thought you were just saying when you said Dance Academy.
It's a show about a ballet school in Australia.
You could just stop now. You don't need to keep going with that.
He played a character named Sammy.
I can see your vagina, literally. Can you just put it away?
And what happened to his character was very
Oh my
sad.
God. Stop talking about Dance Academy. Anyway, so from an outsider's perspective.
He's a brilliant actor, and I thought he was very good in it. But yeah, that's just to say, I enjoyed it very much. I thought it was great.
From an outsider's perspective, having only played the games briefly with you, I remember the kind of cut sequence that appears in this web series from the game, where the ship is all busted up and broken up, and the computer's like fighting with itself, and then the girl appears, the computer image. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I don't know all the names or lingo. So I saw some of that. I didn't really get how it played into what I was seeing in the web series. I don't know if they just used that to kind of tie into the game.
Right.
So I was a little confused by that, but like you said, like as a movie, as like a whatever it is, 90-minute movie or 80-something minute movie, I thought there was not a lot to be desired, but definitely in the way of like plot and from scene to scene transitions and things like that. I was a little confused when I realized that it's because it's probably told in like 10-minute chunks. It made a heck of a lot more sense. That you kind of have these little cliffhanger moments, then you move on to the next. When I realized that, I got the hang of it, I guess, and realized how they had released it, and it made a lot more sense. It seemed to flow better to me from quote-unquote scene to scene. I thought the actors, the cast was very good. Much like Hunger Games, though, I felt like I didn't really get to know each and every person before they bit the dust. Like we talked about Battle Royale, they did a really good job in that movie about explaining every character, or at least giving you something to care about for each character. And I felt like the kind of little opening segments where you heard them talking to the camera about who they are, where they're from, their backgrounds or whatever, just wasn't enough. I got some of it in there, but then I didn't feel a lot of follow-up during the actual segments. But overall, I agree with you. Like, for being what it was, I thought it was good. Even though I've never played the game, I thought the acting was good, the effects were good, the action was solid, the themes throughout, risking it all, honor, protecting your fellow team, things like that, I thought was very good.
Yeah, I think it does lean quite a bit on the Halo mythology. And I mean, even the story of it is tied kind of intrinsically to Halo 4. Because it's basically a flashback to something that happened many years before Halo 4 starts. And the way they positioned this web series is they had all these different episodes coming like once a week or twice a week or something like that on the march up to the release of Halo 4. And
gotcha.
the main character, Lasky, who's played by Tom Green, that's the kid's name from Dance Academy.
Vagina. Total vagina.
Lasky is a character that does appear in Halo 4, and you as the Master Chief do run into him at some point. And it's kind of neat if you'd watched Forward Unto Dawn, because at some point you realize you're talking to him on the radio and you're going to see him. And it's awesome when you see this video game character modeled. And Tom Green has this mole on his cheek. And the character in the game, like the adult version of that character, actually has that same mole. And cool. He kind of references what happened in Forward Unto Dawn, just barely. You're like, yeah, you probably don't remember me. You helped us out, and kind of thing. Which it was really neat, especially having played all the Halo games and then watched Forward Unto Dawn and then played Halo 4 to see all the pieces come together. From the standpoint of a gamer, I think that adds a great deal more to the series.
Hell yeah. I could see that.
When I was talking about it a minute ago, I actually didn't think about that, but thinking about it now, like that's actually really awesome.
So this week, I know I talked about it last week and the lead up to it, because I was pretty damn excited about it. But my hot this week is we talked about it a little bit earlier, the release of Arrested Development Season 4 on the Netflix, or as maybe would on Netflix, or as maybe would say, the Netflix.
The Netflix.
The Netflix. Did you? Oh, you haven't gotten there yet. It's hilarious. Can I go into this? Can I just start blabbing about how wonderful this show is?
Do it to it. Get froggy with it.
Frickin' A, people. If you're not watching this show, what is wrong with you? And we are not friends. I love this show. My family and I, like at the time, like my 12-year-old nieces and my nephew, my sisters, my mom, we all watched season 1. We bought season 1, season 2, season 3 on DVD like immediately as it came out. I think my family is the only family in the United States where every single one of us owns all of the DVDs because it's not enough just to go to somebody's house and watch it. Everybody needs to own it themselves. So we are huge, ridiculous Arrested Development fans, and we could not wait for this new season to get here. I have read a lot of shit talk online about the new season, and to those playa-hating bitches, I say, shut up. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. The show is hilarious. It takes a little bit of getting used to because they've changed up how the format is. It's not just centered on the entire family every episode. We talked about it last week that there were a lot of actors who couldn't be there at the same time as other actors and things like that. But so they instead focused each episode on one character, and several characters get several episodes during the 15-episode run. But holy good God, it is awesome. Like, there's so many new jokes. There are so many old jokes that come back. Each character gets their own spotlight on them, which never really got done in the first 3 seasons. You'd get like a little bit of it, mostly centered around Michael. And this latest episode, this latest season is just hilarious. My wife and I went on vacation over Memorial Day when they released it, and every night we get back from like going out and having dinner and drinking and eating a ton of food and going shopping and riding bikes and whatever, and we'd come home and we'd watch like at least 2 or 3 episodes of Arrested Development just so we could consume the show, and it was awesome.
Well, I might,
you tell me,
I might be a player hating bitch here, but
you play hating bitch ass. You tell me.
No,
what's
I
wrong?
don't hate it or anything. I actually enjoy it quite a bit. I don't think it's as strong as what came before it.
And a lot of people have said that.
And I think that some of the concessions that they made to try to make this happen weren't worth it. I think that the green screen stuff all looks uniformly terrible, and it stands out like a sore thumb. And I think some of the scenes where they swap out the real actors for a stand-in, all of that stuff stands out to me too. Then I feel like it's kind of uneven. Like, I feel like more than anything, I feel like most of Tobias's episodes are not great. I think they have great moments, but I don't think they're as strong as the other episodes. Like, I think the other episodes are strong all the way through. And I'm only up to episode 9, so things could change. But right now, it's like every time I see it's a Tobias episode, I'm kind of like, ugh. And there are a few moments where I'm like, oh, it's funny. But overall, like, I feel like those episodes are kind of weak. And I feel like if they had the cast there and they had everybody there all the time, that stuff would have ironed itself out. But sure, the concessions they had to make to work around everybody's schedules, I think, sort of hurt things a little bit.
Sure.
Then there's just like random things like Portia de Rossi. I don't know what she did to her face. I have no idea. Like, everybody's been trying to guess what it is exactly, but it's hard to put a finger on.
When they finally get to her new haircut, her actual hair, what did you think of her then? Her short hair?
I think she looked more like herself. But even more than that, she looked more like Callista Flockhart. Which I still feel like I'm going to get to the end of the show and they're going to be like, "Oh, we punked you. It's actually Callista Flockhart playing."
They won't. But no. I think because they had her in the long blonde hair wig in the first few episodes and then the red hair wig for some of the other episodes, she just looks weird in those wigs.
That's not what it is. That's a plastic surgery trick. That's something when somebody goes and gets plastic surgery, the thing they tell the patients to do when they leave is to go get your hair done, get a different color, basically do anything to pull attention away from your face.
No, but
they were wigs, but I think that was the approach, is they were going to ease you into the character, because once they get to her short hair, it feels like she almost looks the same. like you almost want to say, oh, it was just the wigs, but then you look at it and you're like, oh no, it's something else too. But it's easier to accept. It's the remember in Captain America when the movie first starts off and he has that terrible Captain America costume?
Yeah.
And even if you thought his primary Captain America costume looked dumb before the movie started, after you watch the movie and you've seen him walk around in that crappy costume for a long time, when he puts on the real thing, you're like, that costume's amazing.
So you're saying they prepare you for it, basically.
They ease you into they're trying to ease you into what has changed about her face.
That's possible. But that still should not affect the jokes in the show or
no, it doesn't.
But
it was just there's things that take you out of the moment and they distract you. And I think that the one really great thing I can say about this show is I think the humor is more well refined, maybe almost too much, because if you have things like this taking you out of the moment and you're not paying attention, I think that you can miss some of the really creative humor that they're building with some of the stuff happening in the background and stuff like that. I mean, the show is multi-layered and really great, and I like that about it very much.
Yeah, you need to watch each episode at least 2 or 3 times
that's what
to
I was
really
gonna say.
appreciate everything.
I think that this season will everybody who's saying bad things about it, I think when it comes back around, everybody will have gone back and watched it a couple of other times with friends or whatever, and I think many of those opinions will change.
I hope so.
Overall, though, like I said,
hope they make more.
It's still not as strong as season 3 of Arrested Development. I think that they tried to get there, but they didn't quite make it. That's not a bad thing, though. I think if Netflix does do as they said they might do and continue the show, that they can really bring it back home, because this new format, there's something to it. I think they just need a little bit more time to play with it.
I agree. I'm hoping Mitch H does the right thing and keeps it going, but we'll see.
Yeah. There was one other thing I wanted to say. Michael Cera. Oh my God, is he turning into an awkward-looking man?
It's the weak chin, dude. He's got a weak chin. When they show him from the side, like his face goes out and then it comes down to nothing and it just looks silly.
Who knew he was going to grow up to be John Turturro?
Yeah. I think he's a fun actor, but I know exactly what you mean, especially when he's got that like little hint of a mustache.
Yeah, and
it's just bad.
The wrinkles in his face come a lot stronger. Like when he frowns, all of the lines are way stronger than they've ever been. And it was like before, it was like, oh, cute baby face, but now it looks like when you watch like in commercials and things where they take a baby and they like 3D animate the face to put all these expressions on their face, but the animators get carried away and they like put adult expressions on the baby face. Yeah, and it looks a little creepy. That's kind of how his face looks now. It's like this baby face with adult expressions popping up.
I did notice that he and Portia de Rossi, that the two of them, when they do like the flashbacks to the Queen Mary, right after the Queen Mary incident, where like they're in police holding or whatever, that everybody else seems to pass for exactly as they were, whatever, 7 years ago, except for those two, Portia de Rossi and Michael Cera. Like the two of them, you can tell easily that they've grown up a ton.
Yep.
So anyway, people, if you're listening, don't let that distract you or stop you. Watch the new season of Arrested Development. If you haven't seen the first 3 seasons, holy crap, get on the ball, watch all 4 in a binge. I'm sorry if you die while doing it. That's going to take like a week of your life, but just stock up on foods and drinks before you start it. That's all I can say. So earlier today, if I can continue, I'll start it off and then I want Jamel to talk. Earlier today, I posed a question to Jamel on Facebook about because After Earth has come out and the reviews are just as I've heard say, just terrible. As Charles Barkley would say, just terrible. I saw a video today that said, it asked the question, what was M. Night Shyamalan's worst movie? And it made me pause. I watched the video. I thought it was hilarious. I sent it to Jamel and asked him what he thought was the worst movie. And we said we're going to hold off until tonight to talk. So you lucky listeners get to hear what we think is M. Night's worst movie.
Yeah. You know what? I think the best way to do this too is I think we should run through all of his movies, so we can
Oh
just
dear Lord.
eliminate, just like in the video that we were looking at when we first brought this up. They kind of just run through all of the movies,
Yes.
and talk about each, so they can settle on which one is the actual worst.
What they can all agree on. And they don't. Maybe we can include a link in the show notes to the original video, because it's that funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, his first movie, I don't think there's anybody who would argue that The Sixth Sense is not just a brilliant, brilliant movie. I think that movie, when you see people talk about, they were saying he's going to be the next Spielberg, all of it had to do with The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Because tonally, as far as the script, the direction, everything about that movie is just masterfully done.
You know the accident up there?
Yeah.
Someone got hurt.
They did?
A lady. She broke her neck.
Oh my God, but you can see her?
Yes.
Where is she?
Standing next to my window.
Baby, where are you? Shaking. Cole, what's wrong?
Did you ever talk to your mom about how things are?
I don't tell her things.
Why not?
Because she doesn't look at me like everybody else, and I don't want her to. I don't want her to know.
Know what?
I see dead people walking around like regular people.
I don't see anything. Are you sure they're there?
Were you one of the people who figured out what was going on before the twist at the end?
I don't remember anymore, because I've seen that movie so many times that it's hard for me to remember the first time. I feel like I did figure it out, but there were parts of it I didn't get.
Yeah,
initially.
see, I was not. I had no clue. It hit me like a freight train. Like I had no idea what. And I pride myself on being like Mr. Smart Guy in movies. And that movie caught me off guard. And the reason I say I like it is because what was his greatest gift in that movie, the twist ending that slapped me so hard on the face and called me Susan, was also the reason why I started to hate him like 2 or 3, 4 more movies down the road.
Right.
The twist. You know what I mean?
Well, he had lightning in a bottle, and he let it go, and he was trying desperately to get it back.
To recapture it.
Yeah.
Every single time trying to recapture it. But I agree with you. It was not just his best movie. It was a great movie. I own it. I've watched it multiple times. It still, years later, creeps me out to watch it, even though I know what's coming up. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of disturbing in some parts, but damn, it's just a good movie. Beautifully shot, beautifully acted. And again, that twist just always kicks my ass.
Yeah, and you know what? Thinking about it harder now, I actually didn't get it, because I was thinking about it. Yeah, the moment when he tells him, I think were they sitting in church? Where are they sitting? They're sitting somewhere where he tells him.
Yeah, I think he's in a pew in the church. Yeah, I think so.
And they do the flashbacks.
He's got his little army men or whatever.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the gut check I got when that happens. It's like you feel it in your gut. Like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
it's just
to
like,
the people
whoa.
who say they figured it out, I say kiss my ass. I don't believe you. Because no one had done it. No one had done it in my recent memory, and no one had done it with near as well as success as he had done it. He put all the fucking clues there, and I missed every single one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I just thought, oh, this guy's so distant and cold to his wife, and oh, blah, 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 blah. You know, like it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I said, I have no other way to say it.
The color cues, too. I mean,
Yeah.
going back and figuring out.
red.
Yeah, that every time there was a ghost in the room, there was red, and he was always surrounded by red, but you never picked up on it, kind of thing.
He never talked to anybody else but the kid in the home. You know what I mean? Like, it was just masterfully done. They start off a scene and it looked like he was talking, but he actually wasn't. Just so much. Well, so Fight Club, the movie Fight Club, when that came out, maybe a year later, same year, I can't remember when it came out, but the fact that Brad Pitt's character that Edward Norton's character didn't have a name throughout the entire movie. Okay, thank God. It's Maria. I thought my nightmare was just coming true. I saw someone barely open. Hi, beautiful. I saw someone barely open the door and I just couldn't even talk. I was just like pointing at the screen like, Jamel, behind you.
No, I asked her to bring me some more coffee. So
she's so sweet. I thought a little kid was going to come in and kill you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So continuing along that Fight Club, the fact that Edward Norton's character doesn't ever have a name in that movie, he's just the narrator.
Jack.
Also, good twist, hit me like a ton of bricks. Didn't, you know what I mean? Like I felt like M. Night started it and then other people since him have tried to emulate it or copy it or come up with their own twist on it. And I thought Chuck Palahniuk or whatever his name is, Palahniuk, I thought he did, yeah, something like that, did a fantastic job with that as well. You know, like kind of leading you along, giving you everything you think you need, and then telling you like you have no idea. I thought that was great. Okay, so The Sixth Sense out of the way. We can agree, fantastic effing movie.
Yeah, it does not belong on the list of his worst movies.
Yes. Unbreakable.
Wait, you skipped one.
No.
Oh, no, you didn't. I'm sorry. Stupid IMDb. Stupid IMDb. It has them out of order. Anyway, so yeah, Unbreakable.
Why are you looking at me like that?
There are two reasons why I'm looking at you like this. One, because it seems you are the only survivor of this train wreck. And two, you don't have a scratch on you.
I know what's going through your mind right now. You're searching for meaning in all of this. Know one thing. 131 people died so you could finally understand the destiny for which you were born. Are you ready for the truth?
So this is the one that I think some people will argue over because I think your predisposition to liking comic books and or comic book movies, especially at the time this movie came out, before any comic book movies really hit big. This was a movie that some people really didn't like, especially after, following up The Sixth Sense, because people were wanting more of that.
I can tell you right now, it's marketing. Like John Carter, they totally screwed people on the marketing for this movie. People saw it because of The Sixth Sense, unlike John Carter, where they're like, this movie's weird. But they sold the movie as one thing and delivered another. Right. I remember sitting in the theater. One of my buddies, Dusty, was actually talking about it online with me today. He was with me when I saw it. I remember sitting in the movie theater, and when that crawl comes up on the screen, or rather the opening lines of the movie or whatever, like in text, and it talks about this many comic books sold every year or whatever, I literally heard a collective like, what the fuck? From everybody else in the audience, except for me. I was like, comic books? Awesome. Like, what are we going to do here? And I think that's where people started hating the movie. I think the movie itself is really, really, really good. Not as good as Sixth Sense, but really good in telling that how a supervillain becomes a supervillain, how a hero becomes a hero. But the problem is they didn't sell the movie that way. And everyone went in thinking it was one thing and they got a whole nother thing. And if they weren't open to that other thing, or if they weren't thrilled by the idea of a comic book movie, of a Superman and Lex Luthor first meeting movie, then the whole movie was bupkis for them. They hated it.
Well, I mean, there's also the fact that he did his twist earlier in the movie. I know he squeezed in another twist at the very end, but for me, the twist is that first conversation between he and Samuel L. Jackson, where he's basically explaining that he believes there are superheroes in the world. And having seen what Bruce Willis has been through, I think that's the point where, like, my mind was just kind of blown. I was like, holy shit, this is a comic book movie, and like, I think I kind of ignored everything preceding, even the opening scroll. Like, I was like, I didn't want to put two and two together, because there's a delicacy with the way he shoots this movie that if you look at comic book movies and where they've gone and where they are now, I don't think that they get this same kind of light touch. I mean, it's beautiful. The way this movie is shot is beautiful, and the score and everything with it feels so peaceful and so serene. And it's the polar opposite of what comic book movies are.
Yeah, I mean, the camera just sits there for long periods of time, or slowly moves, and it's not an action-packed kind of movie at all.
Right. But yeah, I absolutely love it. I'm not willing to put it on the list of his bad movies.
Nope. No, I agree with you. It's in my camp of great M. Night movies.
Yeah, and even more so, there's rumors of him talking about doing a sequel finally.
I saw that this week.
Yeah.
How awesome would that be?
Well, that's the question. How awesome?
Let's get into that.
You should say it. You need to put the emphasis on a different syllable.
Syllable. Yes. No, I agree with you.
How awesome would that be?
How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah, if he had done it 10 years ago, it'd probably be much more awesome. So continuing on down the line then, his next movie,
Signs. Again, this is one of those movies where I know a lot of people just hate that movie. I love Signs. I just love it. I feel like if he were experimenting, like if this was M. Night experimenting with building mood, I feel like Signs is the movie where he like spent all of his time just working on mood. Like, how can I just work on making mood and creating mood and making people feel a certain way, basically manipulating people.
Yeah.
I think there are problems with it. I think there are things he could have done a little bit better. And he went the cheesy route intentionally, but I think that, not everybody can appreciate what he did when he did those things. Like things like the first time you see the alien and he basically aped the Bigfoot footage. Like
I
almost
love that
exactly.
Scene, the child's party.
And that scene to this day gives me goosebumps. Even talking about it gives me goosebumps on my neck thinking about that scene, that shot.
Do you remember they showed it in the video today, the review video? They showed it, and I had the same the same reaction Joaquin Phoenix has in that movie, like, oh.
Yeah, I still have that every time he sees it. It's partially the scene and partially the score, because you get this real hard hit right there, and then Joaquin Phoenix's reaction.
It just sells it.
But yeah, I mean, Mel Gibson at the beginning, I can't hear my children. All of that stuff. The scene where they're chasing the alien. At that time, they think it's just a bunch of kids around the house, and so much of it I could just completely love.
A lot of it felt like old school, like 1950s, 1960s kind of alien horror.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it came from beyond the stars and things like that. That's one of the things I enjoy about it.
Yeah, it's like a big, long-ass episode of The Outer Limits. And I think that was intentional, though, and not everybody got that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like that movie.
So I only have one issue with the movie, and it's from a writing perspective. Blake Snyder, who wrote Save the Cat and the subsequent Save the Cat books, who I espouse and I love his principles for storytelling, for script writing specifically. He calls it double mumbo jumbo. And what it means from a screenwriter's perspective is not only do I have to take a leap of faith and believe in God in this movie, because Mel Gibson's character is a fallen preacher, I also have to take another leap of faith and believe that aliens exist in this same world.
They flip it too. It's the other way around.
The term suspension of disbelief, where you'll allow Vin Diesel's character in the latest Fast and the Furious movie to jump off of his car, moving at 90 miles an hour, and collide with Michelle Rodriguez's character. You'll believe some of it. You'll let go of some of it. That kind of thing. You could do that in a movie where it asks you to believe in a movie about God, that God exists, God predestines things, God gives Mel Gibson's wife the ability to see the future and kind of give information. But asking you to also believe in aliens, I think that's what screws up the movie. Now,
and that's where I was saying, like, they do it the other way around, because they first ask you to believe in aliens.
Right.
And then they turn around and ask you to believe in God. And I feel you're right. That's especially the way they do it, because like, talk about mumbo jumbo, the fucking bramble and bushes and shit you got to crawl over to get to the belief in God part at the end.
Yeah. I agree. here's what I'll say about that part of the movie. In my head, had Mel Gibson just been a mourning father who misses his wife, who hasn't figured out how to connect with people after the death of his wife, especially his kids or his brother-in-law, Joaquin Phoenix. He wasn't a preacher, but just a guy who is severely depressed and disassociative and doesn't understand how to really kind of understand the world now that his wife is dead. And he's kind of put through the ringer a la like a Bruce Willis style when these aliens attack, and he realizes what he's got to stand for. He's got to protect his kids. He's got to protect his community, like that kind of a thing. If he had to reinsert himself into the world to stave off the alien invasion, so to speak, and save the people that he cares about, I think that would have been a fantastic movie. You know
Actually,
what I mean?
I would have gone for what if you never see aliens at all? And he has to deal with people freaking out, people trying to steal, like the things that happen when big crises happen.
But I think from a horror creature perspective, that's what makes the movie what it is.
Right.
The aliens. The aliens he has to fight, the hand that sneaks out from under the door and he cuts off the finger. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. That's what reminds me of the 50s style movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in my head, it's get rid of the priesthood, or I should say the preacher aspect of the movie and that whole piece, and just focus on the aliens. You know what I mean?
I think we're both getting at the same means.
Yeah, exactly.
Just through
Toss
different
one
ends.
of the things and keep
Toss
the other.
one. Yeah, it's keep God or keep the aliens, but not both.
Yeah, it's just too much. Your brain can't comprehend. Other than that, I thought it was a fantastic movie. I agree. The performances of all the characters are great. The scene where they start picking up the alien chatter on the little kid's monitor, the baby monitor.
Oh my god, dude! Oh my god!
And they're all like holding each other on the car, like "Don't break the signal." And even the adults are getting into it. Like I was into it, and I thought that was great that they made me give a crap about trying to keep this baby monitor set.
I think he was running for a touchdown. He fumbled it right before he hit the end zone, but he managed to scoop it up and make it through. Yeah. Again, signs.
Not on the list of bad movies, but I could see a little bit of the start of his downfall in that movie, that he was trying to take on a little too much. You know what I mean?
I think his arrogance. I think that this is the point where M. Night Shyamalan is getting, where everybody is just telling him that he's golden.
Yeah, he's the next Spielberg. You're great. No, I agree.
There's nobody. I think his biggest problem, it seems like there was nobody telling him no.
He's surrounded by yes men.
At this point, yeah. At this point, there's still nobody telling him no, and so he's still pushing forward, and this is what brings us to The Village.
We have always had, since the day we settled here, a gentle understanding with the creatures who live beyond our borders. We do not stray into their woods. They do not come into our village. It is a truce.
Yeah.
I know people who like The Village.
Hold on, really quick. I can't really talk about The Village. I thought it was a good movie. I thought there were scenes in it that were really well shot, well done, well acted, well scored, beautifully scored. The problem is I knew the twist before. Fucking Ain't It Cool News had spoiled it for me like 4 days before the movie came out. I purposely tried to stay away from any news about it because I knew that there was going to be some twist or something. And I was on a completely unrelated topic post on the site, and some jackass in the comments wrote what the twist was in that movie. Totally. So the whole time watching the movie, I knew it was coming and I just couldn't enjoy it. So having said my piece, I think it's a good movie. I think that there are parts of it that are really good, but I can't give it an unbiased opinion because I knew it was coming.
I think you're better off. I feel like for me, the twist is what ruined the movie.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't think the twist was that interesting. And considering the supernatural nature of what they were playing with initially with the idea, I think, again, this is a movie where he was really good at building mood. I think that...
Dude, the scene where they're under attack, the village is under attack, and Joaquin Phoenix is still out there, and Bryce Dallas Howard's character has just like her hand out, and she's like, "He will come to me," and her hand's kind of shaking a little bit. It's in the darkness, you know, and the music is building, and you see the creature in the red kind of coming up at the last possible second, right before it grabs her. Joaquin Phoenix grabs her hand, and just everything goes slow motion. The music really hits, and he takes her down the stairs or whatever. Like, that scene is beautiful. It's picturesque. The sound quality, like the music is fantastic. And it's that kind of thing that makes me really appreciate the movie. Mm-hmm. But then there's so much other stuff that I'm like,
I was absolutely eating up that movie until the twist. And
that's a shame, man. He's great with mood. Even the same with Unbreakable and Sixth Sense.
Yeah, exactly. He's great with mood. He's great with framing a picture, a beautiful picture, so you feel interested in what you're seeing. But yeah.
Which brings us to that sigh. Brings us to The Last Airbender.
Wait, no. That brings us to The Lady in the Water. Or that
Lady in the Water and The Happening. Oh dear God, they get even worse,
first?
don't they?
So this is where it gets weird for me, because I actually like Lady in the Water.
Look at my face.
Yeah, I think there's, at some point he explained what he was trying to do with that movie, and it stuck with me. And
wasn't he trying to make a modern fantasy, like a?
He was just trying to do a fairy tale, like a Disney fairy tale movie type of thing. And I think that worked. I think it was a little much for the typical audience of that, but I think he was trying to make that for adults. So sure. If you've watched movies about the princess being saved and blah, 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 blah. Now, the point of view that I know a lot of people who hate that movie take is that this movie is his most narcissistic movie. Because if you take Paul Giamatti's character and you say this character is M. Night, and he's this man who was kind of a nobody, and he becomes this really great writer. Or actually, M. Night is actually in the movie, and he's the one who becomes the writer. Yeah, he becomes this writer who's going to write this amazing things, and he's going to be so awesome. He's going to save the world and all this shit.
It's totally,
if you take it from that point
maniacal.
of view, if you take it from that point of view and you look at nothing else the film has to offer, I think it's easy to hate it. But I feel like Paul Giamatti's performance is great. I think that most of the supporting cast is really great. Even the people you've never heard of in the movie. I don't know. I liked it. And Bryce Dallas Howard is great. I think she's great and always lovely in that and everything she does. So I can't complain too much about it, but I can see why anybody would not like it.
I can complain a lot about it. I've only seen it the one time. I think I may have seen it once and a half on accident, because I started watching it and it was like late and I was tired. And at one point I was like, no, fuck it. I'm not done.
You're like, baby's on a high tip.
Do you remember for like 6 months after that movie came out, you and I just kept saying, baby's on a hot tip. Cabin in the Woods. It was just, in my opinion, just not a good movie. Just not entertaining. The twist sucked. I thought his role in it was too self-serving and just egotistical to the nth degree. Paul Giamatti was all right, but at the same time, I felt like he was just such a loser type character. I didn't care about him. Like, I wasn't invested in him at all. When you find out a little bit more about his history, you start caring a little bit, but I feel like it comes too little too late. The rest of the characters, the kind of quirky cast, I thought probably had the most promise in the way that he kind of brings them together. But at the same time, and the guys in the movie review we were talking about, what did they say? Like, and then he has to dive down and he has to get this goop, and he's got to put the goop on her leg because she got hurt by the crazy wolf thing, and then she fixes herself so that the monkey tree people can come down. And it's just the same thing with me. I was just like, fucking, you're making my head explode. Just stop it. This, to me, I don't know that it's his worst. I'll make that judgment at the end, but man, at this point I was just like, what happened to you, M. Night? Like, what happened to you? And
I forgot one piece too. I actually read his book. I read the book, the fairy tale book that he wrote that goes along with it. I
Sure.
read that before I saw the movie as well.
Which has more backstory and stuff like that.
It's not
too,
really
yeah.
backstory. It just explains the same kind of. It's basically the same story that happens in the movie, just dumbed down and simplified a little bit.
Sure.
So some of those things didn't seem as weird because I had read that stuff. But
Sure.
I will admit, a lot of that stuff is gibberish. But when you're reading it in the form of a kid's book, it's fine. And then I went back and I see the movie later, and it was just more of that same stuff I already read in a kid's book. So I think it was easier for me to accept. So there are definitely reasons why I could see myself liking it that go outside the realm of,
Sure. The movie.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, to transition into the next movie, because I didn't like this movie at all, I did not go see The Happening in the theater. Like, I told myself, this, whatever The Happening is, it's going to be a fucking rental. Like, I don't care. He's lost credibility with me at this point. I'm not going to spend $10, $12 to go see it in the theater. Like, I'll just wait. So, continuing on with The Happening.
Shit.
Are we ever going to get to our main event tonight?
Yeah, I know, right?
Science will come up with some reason to put in the books. But in the end, it'll be just a theory. We will fail to acknowledge that there are forces at work beyond our understanding.
Yeah, so I saw The Happening in the theater. It was one of the rare times that the wife and I both kind of wanted to see a movie in the theater, and
oh my god!
I think we might have had a date night or something. Had the kids were gone or something like that. And
I think you talked about it back on MySpace, if I'm correct, and I was
man.
like, "What?
Holy shit, man! That's a bad movie. Like that's a bad movie. Goddamn, man!" And it's funny because we're watching that video earlier today with them talking about movies, and they showed that scene of Mark Wahlberg. What? No.
They took an Oscar-winning actor or Oscar-nominated actor,
and they made him sound like an imbecile.
He turned him into a fucking stooge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have no love for that movie. I have not done what they recommended and watch it as a comedy. I'm actually kind of interested in that, but I still think it's just too gross to be a comedy, like too much weirdness.
No, there's some, because there's moments, and again, he's using his tools that he's developed. So he does a pretty good job of setting a mood.
Yeah.
And in this movie, it's not really setting a mood because everything is so weird that you can't comprehend what the hell's going on at any given time.
The mood is.
But what he does do is he disarms you.
Yeah.
And then he scares the shit out of you with random acts of violence. Everything's all peaceful and nice, and then crash into a tree, or everything's peaceful and nice, old lady banging on the window, like all kinds of weird stuff like that. And it's only effective because he's gotten good at setting such a mood with peaceful, beautiful shots and things like that, that when he amps it up, it kind of just unnerves you a little bit. So
yeah.
That's why I agree with you. I don't think it could work as a comedy because there's too much unnerving shit happening in that movie.
Yeah. Well, they showed that clip of the guy getting run over by the lawnmower thing, the huge ride-on, and that's just gross. Like, I just can't watch it and be okay with it.
Yeah.
But the wind, dude, the wind is the enemy. Like, what the fuck? I remember when I saw it at home. I think I was watching it on my laptop in my apartment at the time, and I just remember thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, they're running from wind? Who can run? The wind is faster than you, assholes. It's the fucking wind. Like, what? It made absolutely no sense to me. Like, I got the whole plants rebelling, the earth wants us dead thing, but the idea that the wind was the enemy, get the fuck out of here. Like, this is stupid. M. Night was just like, I'm phoning this one in. I don't have the time. I'm too busy swimming in my pool of cash over here to give a shit about the plot of this movie.
No, this is where I think he thought he was an artist. And
you think so?
The yes men were telling him, hell yeah, Knight. Because they call him Knight. They don't call him Knight. Hell yeah, Knight. Hell yeah, Knight. You're an artist, man. This is beautiful. This stuff. You're going to win an Oscar for this, man. And, I don't know. As George Carlin said, save the planet, save the trees. Save the flowers, save the bees. Yeah.
It's not the world that's going away, folks. It's us.
Pack your bags.
So anyway, yeah, exactly. That's right. Pack your bags. Okay, so we've got another contender for possible worst movie, which brings us to his last movie, other than After Earth, which neither of us has seen yet. And I say yet very loosely because I may never actually see it. The Last Airbender.
You are the only one who can control all the elements and bring peace to our world.
I will stop them.
You may already be too late.
Yeah.
You've seen the source material, so you tell me. You started off.
I fucking despise this movie. I absolutely, and I think it's mostly.
How you really feel?
I think it's mostly because of knowing the source material, and the fact that he felt he could just completely ignore all of that. Like, you go by the rights to something, and then you just say, "Fuck it, I'm not doing that." You know, I'm not pronouncing any of these characters' names.
World War Z.
Yeah. Well, I'm not pronouncing any of these characters' names right, because you know what? In my opinion, I think they should be pronounced this way. You know, it's the opposite of why you buy the license in the first place. I think in the case of World War Z, they buy the license and most people have nothing to reference at all. But yeah. I mean, in the case of The Last Airbender, you've got probably millions of fans out there that range in ages from children to adults. And they know these characters, they know their names. And even if they don't, if they go back to the source material after they watch your film, they're going to be like, dude, shit's messed up. Yeah.
I thought his name was
Aang. Why is his name Ung?
I don't have a single good thing to say about this movie. Not one.
I mean,
every character, every actor, every plot point, every special effect. No, all of it sucked.
And special effects are okay. I don't necessarily have a problem with the special effects, but the way they're delivered is really bad. If I take any knowledge of, if I try to erase knowledge of the source material and just think of it as a movie itself, all of the acting's bad. They get a newcomer to play the main, the protagonist of the movie, and he's just terrible actor. And I thought it was just M. Night, but then I saw him in Cowboys and Aliens, and he was still pretty damn terrible. I forget the kid's name, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it's a bad movie. There's a scene in the movie where he's trying to inspire people to get up and fight, and it's just the saddest damn thing you've ever seen. Just listening to him and you can do it, you can fight, and it's, oh my god. Yeah.
It's just horrible. It's just horrible. And that could be writing, that could be acting. I'd say it's probably a combination of both. I've seen some really good actors turn out good performances with bad writing, but the kids they chose were just horrible.
It's sad
the character development throughout the movie.
Beautiful, the backdrops, even the costumes and stuff like all of that stuff is well done, but then they put these puppets and all of this stuff, and they're all uniformly terrible.
You know what it reminds me of? Did you ever see Warriors of Virtue?
Yep. I love Warriors of Virtue. Don't compare it to that movie.
The fuck was it? Kangaroos?
They were kangaroo rabbits.
Kangaroos. Warriors of Virtue was good, right?
Yep. Yeah. It was good.
The Last Airbender feels like they were trying that, like they had the same budget of Warriors of Virtue. They had the same ideas of Warriors of Virtue, like this, you know, we'll rise up against the evil powers or whatever, the evils from the other land or whatnot, except they totally fucked it up. Like they were just like, let's put these weird kids in here who don't know how to act, and let's dumb down everything that we can. Let's make everybody ridiculous and have no real stakes involved in what's going on. Like, what I meant by Warriors of Virtue is if you put the two movies side by side with sets, with production value, with lighting and sound, I feel like they're very close to each other. And that just came to me, Warriors of Virtue. Like, that's the closest I could come in comparison. And Warriors of Virtue was what, like 1994, 97, something like that?
I mean, Warriors of Virtue, I think, was trying to capitalize on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing.
Oh yeah.
I think it was good. I mean, it's definitely better than most of the Turtles sequels.
No. Warriors of Virtue. I have nothing. 1997. I have nothing bad to say about Warriors of Virtue. I still love the music from that movie. Every once in a while, I will listen to the soundtrack on YouTube. I think I own the soundtrack for the movie, sadly. And I was pissed when on Netflix they said Warriors of Virtue is on there, except
Warrior
it's
Virtues
not. It's
2?
like the crappy. It's like the crappy sequel, but they had the wrong name for it. Although commercially unsuccessful and critically panned, a sequel, Warriors of Virtue: The Return of Tao, was made in 2002. No. Anyway, I wish he had taken better notes during watching Warriors of Virtue when he made The Last Airbender. Someday I will watch the cartoon for The Last Airbender.
You really should. I mean, it's, you know what's funny?
You've had nothing good things to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, when we started watching it, me and the kids, I was telling Maria she's got to watch it, and I convinced her one night to watch a couple episodes, and then she was hooked. And, you know, she watched it with us all the way through to the very end. And when we were watching it, not all of it was out yet. So, you know, we started when there was no season 3, and then we had to wait for season 3. And it was awesome. Like seeing her just as excited for it to come out as we were. And,
nice.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic show. It's won multiple, God, what did TV win? Is it Emmys?
Emmys? Yeah.
Yeah, and multiple Emmys, and it's a fantastic show. Hilarious, well done, well animated, just brilliant.
I'll need to check it out.
Yeah.
If I ever find myself with a broken leg or something, I just need something to stay a week in bed or whatever. That's totally it.
Yeah. Best of all, it's all on Netflix.
That and the Fast and the Furious. Nice.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so of those movies, what was his worst in your opinion?
No, as I said, I fucking despise The Last Airbender, but The Happening for me is just the worst. I think that movie, there's nothing there. I don't think there's anything redeeming to pull from that movie. I could look at The Last Airbender, and like I said, the set design was beautiful. I thought most of the effects were pretty well handled, and not well handled, I shouldn't say. That's definitely the wrong way to phrase that. The effects worked. I think that the 3D animators who built the effects did a fantastic job. How he decided to use them in the film, not so much. But yeah, I thought the effects were great. So I think that if I could turn off the sound and just watch that movie, I might not be so pissed about it. I might be able to make up a story in my head.
Too.
No, it doesn't help The Happening. I mean, if you're watching it as a comedy and you're just looking at Mark Wahlberg's stupid face in that movie, then I think that would work if you mute it.
Oh, I forgot it's got Zooey Deschanel in it too. Yeah. I can't stand her in that movie.
Yeah, she's annoying in that movie, and she's not quite as annoying as Mark Wahlberg.
I'm in an M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Come on, guys. We have to keep moving. We have to keep moving because we don't know what's after us.
I think there were at least parts in The Happening that were creepy, so I think those were done well. I would have to say
they don't make any sense, though. They come out of nowhere.
But I'm still intrigued enough to possibly someday watch clips of it on YouTube or something like that versus The Last Airbender where I could give a crap. Like, literally, I will never check that out again. I could live the rest of my life without ever seeing anything from that movie again.
I could definitely see that.
Know,
and I could also see
The Happening for you and Last Airbender for me.
Yeah, I could definitely see, too, like, if you are not familiar with the source material, The Last Airbender would be, how long is that freaking movie?
Just makes no sense.
Like 2 hours. It just makes 2 hours of gibberish. Absolute gibberish.
I am of the water people from the Northland. I'm like, what? I don't give a shit. What does that matter?
How come?
But I'm sure if you watch the series, you know who those people are.
How come you two? Oh, that's the other part of that movie too. That was a big deal. Is that he changed the races of most of the characters, which was also pretty interesting. I was just gonna joke and say, how come uses white Eskimos? But yeah, so that was a whole big controversy too, because all of the lead characters in the movie are white, and as portrayed in the actual show, Sokka and Katara are both Inuits, and Aang is
really?
Yeah, and Aang is probably Indian or some Middle Eastern. I'm thinking probably Indian is his character, and his justification was, and it's really weird because he was saying how his movie is so multicultural, but for a show where there honestly aren't very many parts of the culture in that show where there are people who are Caucasian at all. I mean, there's very little of it. It's actually one of the most multicultural cartoons I've ever seen in my life. The entire Fire Nation is portrayed as Asian, and they're played by some of the most famous Asian actors around. You know, and it's actually nice. One of the interesting things when you're watching the show to be like, oh, they got this guy to do, you know, and it's like, I know this actor, and it was great to see them kind of come in one by one and see all of these really great Asian actors. Yeah. In the movie, he decided they would all be Indian, which was weird because he's Indian and he decides to make his own race the bad guys. Okay. But initially they were going to be white as well. He had cast, not Zac Efron, but some like some teen heartthrob boy of the time to play the main villain, and for whatever reason that fell through.
Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah, and when that fell through, yeah, he got the guy from Slumdog Millionaire.
This other guy and Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah. So it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate movie in so many ways.
It just sounds horrible.
I'm starting to lean towards Last Airbender, but I'm going to stick with The Happening because goddamn that movie.
Well, here's the deal. Someday you and I will sit through The Happening and The Last Airbender, and we'll see who survives.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we have lots of beers.
Hell yeah, bears.
We have some beers. We're gonna have some beers. We're gonna have some beers, and we're gonna watch The Happening. Okay, we're gonna watch The Happening. Okay,
you're gonna need some beers. We're gonna watch The Happening. You're gonna need some beers. All right. So it's now well past 11 p.m. I'm getting loopy.
Yeah. This is going to be our God, this will be the first time that we let Hot This Week just completely eat up the time we normally designate for the main event. But considering the main event
this week, dude.
Yeah. Considering the main event, I don't think you'll miss the time we spent doing M. Night talking.
I agree.
With no further ado, I guess, let's go ahead and jump into the main event.
It's the Rock in the building. Yes, Ma. I gotta tell you, but it's your boy Ho from the US.
WTF? What the فخور محمد عملية?
Catch your boy mingling, England, Metlin in the Netherlands, checking in daily under aliases.
America, the birthplace of AIDS.
This week, the main event was The Dictator, starring Sacha Baron Cohen, Anna Faris, Ben Kingsley, and Jason Mantzoukas. It's the heroic story of a North African dictator who risks his life to ensure the democracy would never come to the country he's so lovingly oppressed. That's a really great plot synopsis, by the way.
Isn't that fantastic? I found that on Rotten Tomatoes, dude. As a guy who tries to write the plot synopses or we call them log lines, I freaking love this logline. It kills me. The heroic story of a North African dictator who risks his life to ensure that democracy would never come to the country he's so lovingly oppressed.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
It's perfect.
Too bad the movie's not. Right? Am I right?
Am I right? I think you are wrong-o.
What?
But, what do I know?
Yeah.
Other than everything.
Yeah, I'll go first. The Dictator.
Hold on. Pause really quick.
Okay.
And ready again. Thank you very much. The Dictator.
When you say it that way, when you put the emphasis on dick.
Tell me why you didn't like this movie. Non-spoilers.
Tell you why I didn't like this movie.
Yes.
It's not. I don't feel that it adequately does what the movie sets out to do. And in my opinion, the movie sets out to be a funny film, I guess.
It sets out to be funny?
It sets out to be funny, but it's not.
They tried to make a comedy, I guess?
They try to put in some jokes, but they're not.
New thing they're trying called humor.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, in general, most of the jokes in this movie for me just fell completely flat. I feel like the movie does have some positive things, and I think that pretty much is gated off. It starts and ends with Sacha Baron Cohen and Anna Faris being on camera at the same time. And as soon as those two pieces are not together, the movie just completely falls back into just uninteresting, humorless drivel. But yeah, when those two are on camera, I find myself laughing. I find myself smiling. The rest of the movie, I could give a shit, honestly. So yeah, that's where I stand.
I am so sad to hear this. Just so sad. I thought you and I would be cracking up laughing about this movie. I did not realize we would be. You're gonna Dark Knight Rises me, you motherfucker.
Yeah.
I am the complete polar opposite. I thought this movie was hilarious. I laughed my ass off. I mean, literally LOLing myself all over the place. I was in an airport watching part of it on my phone on Netflix, waiting for my wife and baby to arrive back in town. And I realized at one point, like, oh my God, I got to turn this thing down. Like, he's like talking about blowing things up, and you've got this horrible like Arabian music in the background. All I kept thinking was, they're gonna like arrest me in this airport. Like, this is not good. This post 9/11 world, I cannot be playing this shit in an airport. I couldn't stop laughing. Like, there were some jokes that fell flat, but I thought Sacha Baron Cohen was hilarious. I think he's a genius when it comes to comedy. I thought for once the rest of the cast improved as well as he did, or right up there with him, whereas the other two movies that Larry Charles directed with him, Bruno and Borat, I felt like both of those movies he was the best part of them, and that everybody else kind of stank. In this movie, I felt like Anna Faris gave as good as she got. The other guy,
Jason Mantzoukas.
Oh, man. Jason Mantzoukas, holy shit. There were some scenes where I thought he did better than Sacha Baron Cohen. Like, I just thought his character, this scientist, was just hilarious. Just hilarious. And Ben Kingsley, Sir Ben Kingsley, I thought he was the weakest part of the movie.
I'm not going to argue with that.
Actually has. Yeah, but I mean, that's what killed me, was that the guy who arguably has the best reputation of any of these people has the least amount to do and has the weakest character, plot development, I mean, everything about it. But I think,
especially after his performance, especially after Ben Kingsley's performance in a movie that rhymes with Byron Can Free.
That's good. That's good. I never would have thought of that. Yes. The plot summary for this that you read off earlier, the heroic story of a North African dictator who risked his life to ensure that democracy would never come to the country he still lived in. That is exactly what this movie is. It doesn't sugarcoat it. It doesn't tell you anything else. It's literally about a guy like Kim Jong-il or Saddam Hussein, and it wants you to feel for this guy. At no point in the movie did I feel for him. Like, even when at the end, when he's talking, like, I can't spoil it. I'll save this. Even at the end, where you're supposed to be feeling way emotional for him and you're feeling his plight, they don't really take it seriously. They're still joking and laughing and that kind of thing, and that's what I loved about it. It reminded me a little bit of Coming to America.
How dare you?
No, I said it reminds me a little bit of Coming to America in the sense of they want you as the audience to feel like you're in on the jokes. You know what I mean? Like, they know they're not taking it too seriously. They don't want you to take it too seriously, but they still want you to enjoy yourself. that's the only parallel I'll draw between the two movies, and mostly because they deal with royalty, him being the dictator and Eddie Murphy's character being the Prince of Zamunda. Is that what it was? Zamunda. I love that movie. I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
I can sing the theme song right now. Like that's how much I love that movie.
Yeah.
I want to eat you up.
Yeah.
This does not compare to that movie. I'm not trying to make a comparison. Other than the main characters, you're supposed to care about them, and there are lots of tongue-in-cheek moments in both movies. So from Jamel's point of view, then I guess it's a skip it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So yeah, what service did you use to watch it?
I watch Netflix on my laptop and on my phone.
So I watched it on Netflix on my TV, very comfortable with my feet kicked up, on my 51-inch. And yeah, you know what? The quality was kind of crappy. Normally my Netflix quality is really great, but I don't know what it was that night. If it was just that night or just the stream itself, but the quality wasn't great. It's possible that that's just the way it was filmed as well. Like it may not be a very pristine movie. I know that he gets kind of a chunk of money from the studios and he does with it what he will. So he may not have, used great cameras, or there's various things that could have caused it to look the way it looks. But yeah, it didn't look great. It wasn't a pretty movie. Let's see. I guess we'll jump into overall impressions. Yeah, like you said, for me, it's a skip it. I really, at times, did not want to finish this movie. Like I said, the only redeeming thing for me was his interactions with Anna Faris, and I thought those were pretty entertaining and at times pretty heartwarming. And without those, this would have been the first stream team where I didn't finish the movie, where I was just like, you know what, people, fuck it, I didn't finish it. But
what
this would have been, but thankfully it had the Faris Cohen connection, and that got me through it. But yeah, without that, I would have not watched this movie all the way through. What'd I do for you people, stream team audience?
I am definitely a stream it. I don't think I'll ever own this movie, Janelle. My wife, I don't think I'll allow her to watch it because I think she would find a lot of it offensive. There's no way in hell I'm ever going to let my kids watch it. But oh my gosh, like I wanted to watch it again in the interim between finishing it last week and tonight's recording, just so I could stay fresh on it. And I thought I would enjoy it that much again, watching some of those scenes again. So people, if you're into crass humor and just a ridiculous comedian who doesn't mind looking like an ass, I think this is the movie for you. Stream it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into spoilers.
Spoil it.
Mr. Darcy is a nice bloke. They get together in the end. Rosebud is a sled, and Harvey the rabbit's not pretend. Bruce is a ghost in the sixth sense. The family in the others are too. That's your wife's head in a box, Brad. So wish John Doe adieu. What's in the box? What's in the box? Dumbledore dies. Trinity dies. Norman Bates is his mother. He's in a disguise. Snoop dies. Omar dies. And no one really understands Mulholland Drive. It's true. It's true. We're gonna spoil it for you. It's true. Yeah, it's true. We're gonna spoil it for you.
All right. So you said it's a crass movie. I don't feel like it got that crass. I feel like it could have gotten a lot more crass. There's a part.
God.
There's a part in the movie.
He's talking about a vagina. And
no, but I mean, compared to
it's like looking at the 12-year-old boy naked. I don't understand.
Yeah, but all of that stuff is, at some point when I was watching the movie, I wondered if they were toying with the idea of making it PG-13 and backed off from it, because they wouldn't have to cut much out of this movie to make it a PG-13. I mean, it would be a little bit of ADR and maybe cut one scene or two. because there's no gross out humor. There's none of the stuff I was expecting from this movie. There's one really gross out scene, and that's when he's delivering the baby. And the part where he opens her vagina and he looks at the phone. Like I said, that is a scene with Anna Faris in it. It's probably, I mean, it's kind of hysterical. Just, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, and so gross and stupid, but it's still funny. And like the way the vagina opens up when he opens it, like curtains, and then he closes it. And then he's talking to Jason Mantzoukas on the phone through her vagina while he's supposed to be delivering the baby. And he asks Anna Faris to help him. Yeah.
Freaking hilarious. That's what I mean. Like, there was so much in this movie. There's so much.
There's not. See, that's, and again, that's where I'm like, oh, there's not so much though.
Every time when they cover the whole, every time he wants somebody dead, he does the like cut their throat move, and somebody on his team. And then later on when he walks into the restaurant in Little Wadia?
Yeah.
And he sees all the people he thought he said he wanted to die, and then they show like the one guy who's looking at him all pissed off, and they show that guy's sequence of when he said kill this guy. They show another guy. They fucking show a steak on a table, and they show a flashback to him looking at a cow and making that same maneuver to a guy and then haul the cow off. That to me is like 80s humor all the way. Like, that's just ridiculously fun.
Oh my god!
It just takes it.
I'm so sad you brought up the cow. I'm so sad you brought up the cow.
Why?
Because that's like total Mel Brooks humor, and they totally. No, but they totally fucked that up. They didn't even. I mean, it didn't come off nearly as well as Mel Brooks. If that was Mel Brooks, that would have been masterfully done, and it would have been really funny. But
even just scenes where they're talking about Wadia going to democracy, and everybody is like, "Yay!" and cheering, and he's the tallest guy in the fucking crowd, and he's screaming, "No, no!" like that kind of stuff. The idea in post 9/11 world that an Arabic man is standing up in amongst all these people and saying no to democracy in America just cracks me up. When later on, when he does say yes to democracy officially, and then the scientist guy, his buddy, Jason Mantzoukas, when he's like, no, it's the same exact thing. Like, I was dying laughing, thinking that these guys don't want the country to be democratic. Like, it cracks me up.
There's also like this weird, there's all this subtext in the script as well. Like, you feel like there's all these little messages in there as
like
well.
What? Like,
just like various political messages about America or terrorism, or it's weird that they're in there at all, but they make a lot of little.
Hold on. I want you, if you can, I want you to expand on that, because I think they're all bullshit. I think they're making fun of everything. I don't think they're taking anything seriously.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, I think they start to bring them up seriously, and it's not that they're making fun of them. It's just they just drop it. It's like they pick up the subject, they start to kind of talk about it a little bit, or they bring it up, and then they just drop it. And I don't think they punctuate it with any humor or do anything with it, really. The only time I felt like it was handled with the kind of brush that you're talking about, or painted with the kind of brush you're talking about, is at the very end when he's talking about what democracy is. During his speech. And I feel like, yeah, it was definitely a message there, but they were playing with it and joking with it the whole time. But some of the other times when
that will I agree with. I forgot about that. That I will agree with, where he's talking about how Americans don't know anything about what his country is like, and his country...
What a dictatorship is like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what America is like.
Yeah. And it's funny. I thought that was funny, and it was well done, but they bring up things like that often in the movie, but they don't do anything with it. Like the idea when he first arrives in America, and all of the weird God, what's that actor's name? Shit.
John C. Reilly.
John C. Reilly's like,
I'd invite you to go see the Statue of Liberty before you or one of your Arabian friends blows it up.
Yeah, I was just like, really? Like, I don't know. He's from a different movie. That character's from a different movie. Nobody else in the movie is amped up like that. It was, I don't know. Like I said, none of those pieces comedically worked very well for me. And maybe I'll watch it again, and maybe I'll think things are more funny. But at this point, the things that I laughed out loud at were the scenes where he was on screen with Anna Faris. Like the first time he goes to her shop, and he's just talking shit about all the people who work there, and he's making all these racist comments. Yeah, and he's like Captain Hook and all that stuff. Like all of that stuff was just hilarious. And then
Well, what about when he starts running the shop for her?
Some of that was funny. Some of that was funny, but not a ton of it. I like some of the waterboarding, like the signs and stuff that they put up. There would be waterboarded and stuff like that, but none of that stuff really carried off that great. The scene with Gary Shandling changing the grade, and then the other guy letting the people out of the van. Like I feel like all of that stuff could have been handled a little bit better, and it would have been a little bit more effective. I don't know. Oh my goodness,
we couldn't disagree more on this movie. I thought, I don't know. There wasn't really anything other than the erroneous shot of his penis at one point in the movie. I thought the rest of it was hilarious when he's on that stupid line, that zip line.
That's so funny. I actually laughed at that. Was another scene. That was probably the only scene in the movie that I laughed when Anna Faris was not anywhere around. Wait, when his penis hit the window.
Scene or the penis?
The penis.
See, that was only. See, that's what I thought. I told Janelle that had that scene not been in it, I couldn't think of another thing I didn't like about the movie. That was it. Like, and it was because it was so gratuitous. Just so gratuitous. Like there was no need for a dick shot, but they put it in there. Had they not done that, in my opinion, they could have gone for like the PG-13 rating. Like, but the whole rest of that zipline sequence where the guy's like, "What else do you have in your pockets?" And he pulls out a brick. He's like, "I always like to carry, at least one of these around." And the guy's like, "At least one. Do you have another one?" And he pulls out another one. Like all of that. I was laughing my ass off. Like, why would a guy have two bricks in his?
That was annoying me too. I think some of the jokes for me that didn't work, what made it worse for me was they had a habit of taking it a step further. And for me, it never got any funnier because the first time it wasn't funny, but then they try to take it a step further, like the brick thing. And he pulls the brick out of his pocket. Really? He's got a brick in his pocket. Ha ha. I go, it was to balance out the other brick. And it's like, really? Oh, great. Yeah, he's got two bricks. That's really funny.
See, I was busting a nut laughing at that.
The more I think about it, the more I do feel like it's highly likely that they pulled back some things. Because there's a scene where he's hanging too, and he says like he can take a shit and he'll lose enough weight to be able to make the zip line work, and it like apparently falls on somebody.
But you see a lady and she hits the ground.
Yeah, but you don't see anything. Like I was expecting some. I feel like maybe that's my problem with it. If you've watched Borat and his other movies, there's some really grotesque humor in there, and
that's why I like
it's almost like somebody went through this movie and erased those things. Like they're still supposed to be there, but they just
commercially viable. It seems like less jackass and more Hollywood.
Yeah, I think they didn't go. I mean, they needed to pick one direction and go with it. Like,
I could see where they were a little middle on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they left. If they were making a PG-13 movie and at the last minute they decided, we can't do it or we don't want to do it, we're just going to make it R. And then they left in, the penis scene, the baby being born scene, and gosh, I can't think of any other scenes really that fit the typical mold of his movies. But
breasts, I think there were shots of breasts and things like that, but
no, not really. I mean, there was a scene where the guy was milking, but like you don't really see anything.
Oh, that's true. They're always covered up or they're scantily clad, but not.
Right, and I mean, the women had all taken their bras off in that scene too, and the next shot, they've all got them back on except for the one he's milking. And that scene is done in just the very kind of light and airy. This
again, an 80s comedy kind of way.
No, 80s comedy, when they whipped their boobs out, they would have been out. And that would have been that, kind of thing. And in fact, maybe there would have been milk actually coming out. Like they would have taken it a step further and it would have been funny. Yeah, and Ben Kingsley, as you said, was just completely wasted. I still can't believe that. For such a great actor, I have a hard time understanding. I don't know how he'd be utilized that way. Like,
I don't know how he agreed after reading the script. The only thing I can think of, having watched the trailer again today to get ready for this, there was a ton in the trailer that isn't in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if a lot of Ben Kingsley stuff is on the cutting room floor.
Or if there's an unrated version of it on DVD. Yeah. So, I mean, maybe watching that would fix a lot of my problems. Where I feel like...
So let's watch it. When are we getting together to watch this?
Never get a hold of that DVD, I guess. But yeah.
I will find it.
Yeah, for me, I feel like they just pulled out a little too soon.
Oh,
most
come
of the humor.
on now.
What?
Come on now. Really?
What?
This is a family fucking show, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, I said it earlier. It's definitely a stream it for me. I don't think I could buy it, but holy crap, I hope it stays on Netflix so I can watch it a couple more times.
Yeah. Skip this shit.
Well, how did you feel about Borat and Bruno? Did you enjoy those movies?
They're great.
See, I thought both of those went too far. I thought my wife can't watch those movies because she can't stand what he does to normal people, like real people, and he fucks with them and goes over the top and messes with them. She can't stand that stuff. This was the first movie where I felt like he didn't do that. It reminded me a lot of the Ricky Bobby story, Talladega Nights, the Ricky Bobby story. You know, somewhat tamer, more jokes, more geared toward the mass audience versus his kind of niche Ali G kind of audience, you know?
Yeah, I think the humor in those movies, though, came from the fact that he was really making people uncomfortable. And
it's the interaction with normals, yeah.
I mean, even in this movie, there's a scene where he's in the market and he's, being very racist to all of the people, and none of them are really reacting to anything he's saying, which, I don't know. I was waiting for that. I was waiting for some kind of reaction.
Well, like I said,
there's a scene where he tells Aunt Anna Faris, he's like, we can get Blackie to do it or whatever, referring to the African gentleman who works in the store. And like he just kind of looks up at him, bad. But he barely has a frown or anything on his face, like almost like he didn't even hear him say it.
Whereas if it was in real life, some guy would have pummeled Sacha Baron.
Yeah, somebody would have been pissed. Yeah. So I guess it's missing that. There's
you said it. It's a little sanitized.
It's a lot sanitized, and I think that he's trying to use the same formula. But it's a little bit more scripted, and he's trying to force the humor. So if he doles out a joke and it may or may not be funny, they still press on that idea. Like in his other movies, they keep carrying it further, and it gets more and more uncomfortable because they're not stopping with this joke. Right. And it's making somebody uncomfortable. It's making you and the audience uncomfortable, but they're still going. And then you're like, oh my God, they're still going. And they're still doing this.
I'm thinking of the scene in this movie where they're on the helicopter and they're doing the flyby of the Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Or, no, the building that they're looking to do, but they're talking about the Statue of Liberty. They start talking in Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
And the two, obviously, white people in front of them, the little Midwestern white folks, are scared shitless by some of the things that they're saying. All they hear is, Statue of Liberty. They're talking about like
Osama.
With the phone number. Osama. Oh yeah, he's staying at my house right now. But all they hear is Osama bin Laden. They're talking about 9/11, or they talk about 911.
Yeah, the Porsche 911.
Yeah, that's Porsche 911. 911. So from that, they have the benefit of the subtitles on the screen for us at home, but these poor white folks are just getting more and more horrified by the second. And when they start talking about, blowing up things, they look like totally insane, crazy terrorists in a real Sacha Baron Cohen movie in Borat or Bruno. That would have been two real people sitting in that seat across from him who weren't in on the joke, whose reactions would be completely serious.
Well, you wouldn't have had that very Hollywood. We've got these two people sitting in a chair, staring at the camera, pretending like they're hearing people say these things. and trying to look like they're being horrified by what they're hearing. That
Right.
shot, basically.
It would have been way more real. You know what I mean? It would have been all four of them all on camera at the same time, or that kind of thing. It would have been much like his more typical movies. But I thought, I don't know. I didn't feel like the movie was missing anything by not having those pieces. I thought I actually preferred the more Hollywood approach than the Jackass approach, the uncomfortable, real situations. But maybe that's just me. Like I like that they're all actors versus having real people in real situations.
Yeah. I will say, when I started watching this movie, there was a point where in my head it kind of clicked and I was just like, oh, it's going to be like this. And I was just expecting just to not laugh and I'm just doing this out of utility. I'm just watching this movie out of utility.
You remember what the part was?
It was still towards the beginning before he even made it to America.
Wow.
And when I saw John C. Reilly's character, and I was just like, oh shit. And the torture scene where he's talking about all the torture stuff, and I was just like, yeah. And the first time I actually
laughed my ass off. Oh, I have that. I love that. That's an older model. But when John C. Reilly's getting all pissed, he doesn't have the latest interrogation equipment.
Yeah, I was Rorschach watching this movie. I was like, Herm. And the moment when he goes to the store with Anna Faris and he's talking shit, and there's a part where she says something and he says, "What the fuck you say to me?" And I just like busted up laughing. I was just like, and it caught me out. It surprised me. I was like, oh my God, I just laughed at this movie. And I found myself again when they were on the screen together smiling, and I was like, wow, I'm smiling at this movie. And then, again, back to the kind of like Herm. Oh, it's Anna Faris.
I laughed my ass off too. She's like, it was so nice hanging out with you today. You're just so nice, and you're really nice. And he's just like, what the fuck did you just say? Like,
the lady too. There's a lady too who comes and buys a sandwich or something, and she goes, "You're such a nice gentleman." He's like, "What the fuck you say to me?"
Yeah, like after the second or third time of somebody saying he was nice, I was like, is he like really starting to accept this? And then what the fuck did you say to me? Like, it's just like a half a second before, I was like, shouldn't he be reacting to this? And then he came out with that. I just started laughing my ass off. But that's, to me, the whole movie is like that. Like I said, I hear what you're saying. Like, I understand some of the issues you had with it, but in my head, like, all I can remember is just laughing. Like, when they took it too far in this movie, or when they kept amping it up, like, I was laughing even harder at each of those times. I didn't find it a strain or a stretch.
Yeah.
It just shows our different comedic senses.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
All right.
So you want to bring this baby home? Yeah. So again, that was The Dictator, starring Sacha Baron Cohen. Joe says you should stream it. I say you should skip it. Next time on the Stream Team.
Coming up next on the Stream Team podcast.
So next time on Stream Team, we're going to be watching a fairly new to video film that just popped up on Netflix. It is called The End of Watch, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Looking forward to watching it for next show. So if you have Netflix or possibly any other streaming service where it's available, I say check it out, and you can watch with us and listen to our review on the next episode.
Hell yes, people.
If you like our show, help us grow. Write a review on iTunes. Doesn't have to be long, could be short, could be a sentence. It could just be one word, but make sure you add a few stars.
If it is one word, please let it not be like shit or ass or
boobies. You could say boobies.
Hey, boobies is a great one single word to put up there. I'm all for that.
Yeah, it's a
boobies, 5 stars.
Acceptable.
I'm in.
That we definitely would consider that an affirmation. But rate us on iTunes. It really helps us out. It helps the show get promoted and helps people find it. So, that's all I got to say about that.
Until the next time, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Stream Team podcast.
Stream Team!
See you next time, folks.
Have a good night.
Good night. Bye. Stream Team Podcast is filmed in front of a live studio audience and features music by Broke for Free and the Not Quite Quartet. For show notes and more info, visit streamteam.tumblr.com.